Hello, I'm Dr. Jason Menth, and this is my dissertation research showcase on teachers' attrition, relationship between principals' communication and teachers' job satisfaction. I will have a lot of information on these slides and maybe not verbally going through the information as much, but I felt like it was important to keep the information on here for the viewer. So feel free to pause and read more thoroughly on each slide as I continue on. My problem was K-12 public school system is experiencing high teacher attrition challenges. It has been for a long time. It's not a new problem. However, there are maybe some new ways of thinking to support the problem, and that's kind of what I wanted to figure out with my dissertation. You can see that there's high attrition rates nationally, high costs with that. There's a lot of impacts of attrition, going from the stress on the teacher to the achievement of the student, and also how principals are contributing to attrition based on their leadership. So my purpose of the study was to determine if there were statistically significant relationships between Minnesota public school teachers' perceptions that their principal communicated the kind of school they want, salary satisfaction, length of time working in the profession, and job satisfaction. This was a quantitative study that used pre-existing data and also used a binary logistic regression. So my research question and hypothesis are on the screen. I'll just read the research question here. Are there or were there statistically significant relationships between the independent variables of Minnesota public school teachers' perception that their principals communicate the kind of school they want, salary satisfaction, length of time working in the profession, and the dependent variable of teachers' job satisfaction? So looking at the significance of the study, I had to look at the research needs. So I needed to look over how is teachers' retention associated with satisfaction of the principal in the job. I had to look over where does the gap in research lie, which was, does a principal communicating the kind of school they want lead to greater job satisfaction than teachers being satisfied with their salary, or just strictly the number of years taught? And also, what are the areas of influence? Where could this study have a lot of significant influence with the outcomes when I was all done with the study? So my literature review really need to look at several areas. One being the background of attrition, how long has it been happening nationally, the impacts it has. Then I went through teachers' job satisfaction. What are the indicators of teachers being satisfied in their job? So what can we focus on as leaders to help teachers be satisfied? Salary satisfaction, the different salaries across the nation, within our state, different districts, different formulas. How does loan forgiveness or pensions have impact a teacher staying in the profession? Then also looking at the duration of the profession. So what helps teachers stay in the profession? Also, what are states doing, or nationally, what are people doing to help bring more people into the profession or keep them stay? So, for example, in Minnesota with PELSB, the tiered licensure program. And then also principals, what are they working on to help continue with teachers being satisfied? What different leadership styles are they experimenting with or doing that keep staff in their schools? Here is my conceptual framework, looking at my dependent variables and my controls, and hopefully the outcome of keeping teachers satisfied. So feel free to pause and interpret the framework here at this time. My research design was an non-experimental quantitative study that used descriptive data collected through a survey, and that survey was the 2020-2021 National Teacher and Principal Survey, which is administered by the U.S. Department of Education. Then the National Center for Education Statistics, the NCES, was and currently still is the federal entity that collects and analyzes the data, which is available to the public, and how I accessed it. So again, I used the 2021 NTPS, National Teacher and Principal Survey. I'm able to access that data again, so was the public. What's great about this is it is heavily vetted. It is part of the U.S. Department of Education and the Institute of Education Sciences. So a lot of government programs that help ensure that the data is collected ethically, and provided to the public in ways to help the public interpret the data. And it is a congressional mandate, so we can see where our schools are during the years that the survey is administered. So it is a very robust survey, the sample, but again, I filtered it down to Minnesota public school teachers because I'm an administrator in Minnesota public schools, and I wanted to best know the people that I'm serving. So my measures, I had my dependent variable, and there's a question directly on the NTPS, as you can see there under the dependent variable, that I could use to gather the data about that. Then same with the independent variables, those questions directly aligned to what I was researching, and was able to get the information from Minnesota public school teachers that way. And then analyzing the data again, I used the National Center for Education Statistics, went to the data lab and was able to pull that information out from the survey and use a binary logistic regression to analyze all the information that was provided. So a delimitation was, yes, I filtered from national to Minnesota public school teachers, but again, I explained my reasoning why. And the limitations are there's potentially greater variables that did lead to greater teacher job satisfaction other than the variables that I selected. And it's not possible to know exactly how principals communicated their vision or if their messages, maybe principals did actually communicate well, but the teacher interpreted them as not. There's a lot of different reasons or limitations that potentially could impact this. But the ethical issues, again, what was great about using a pre-approved survey is that a lot of, I did not have to worry about a lot of that as that was already completed for me. Here are the slides I'm going to go through rather quickly, the demographics of the people that were part of the survey. Here are the findings directly to the research questions. And then here are the logistic regression results. So I was able to reject the null hypothesis and fail to reject the alternative hypothesis. We had a really healthy percentage of people surveyed. 1/5 response from special education teachers, which I found very important because special education is an area of high attrition. What we were able to see that teachers were more satisfied when the principal communicated the kind of school they want over salary satisfaction and length of years in the profession. Salary satisfaction did result in a lot of satisfaction, but just sneaking out over the top was principal communicating the kind of school they want. Some good things that help teachers stay are incentives for advanced degrees, loan forgiveness, step-in lanes. What was interesting is longevity did not have greater job satisfaction, so the longer in the profession did not lead to greater satisfaction. Principals sharing their expectations with their staff can result in lower staff turnover. So part of what came out was principal training. It might be more costly to train principals than maybe train a bunch of teachers, and equally important to train principals on how to implement indicators and measures to determine if their communication efforts are leading to greater job satisfaction. So transformational leadership is likely the best way for principals to do that. Again, with democratic leadership versus laissez-faire or authoritarian. Need a very concise mission and vision that's easy to interpret. There's ways, comprehensive plan, there's lots of action steps, so it's really easy for people to understand what is being asked of them and know how to complete that. So recommendations for future research would be maybe look at gender satisfaction comparisons, race satisfaction comparisons between teachers, licensure satisfactions, and just kind of try to analyze all possible questions that could lead to satisfaction, because again, maybe there's a different area that led to higher teacher job satisfaction. So in summary, many influences impact attrition, but Minnesota teachers indicated that they are 3 times more likely to be satisfied when their principal communicates the kind of school they want. Principals utilizing transformational leadership traits have a much better chance of retaining their teachers. Greater satisfaction leads to less teacher attrition, and it can lead to higher student achievement and a stronger school culture. We need to provide teachers with leadership and empowerment opportunities, but also within that, develop a mission and vision with the teachers that addresses the needs of all students and is achievable. Thank you for your time in viewing this, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.